My next retro recommendation is Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Not only is it one of the best games on the PSP, it's also one of the best games in the Metal Gear series, in my opinion anyway. And despite its age, it still holds up remarkably well. Last year I did a retro recommendation video for Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. I loved Portable Ops. As a fan of the Metal Gear series, having a proper Metal Gear on a portable was amazing for me. It had a great single player campaign, some cool bosses, lots of replayability, and even an online mode. It wasn't perfect though. The controls in particular were not easy to get used to, and often left me with my hand cramping up. It also had a system where you capture enemy soldiers and recruit them, but you had to slowly drag the unconscious bodies to your truck, which could be a pain at times. Peace Walker built on the good points of Portable Ops, and improved on some of the negatives. The revised controls in particular made it a much better game to play, and the story was superb. You play as series protagonist/antagonist Big Boss, or Vic Boss as he's known at the time. The game takes place after Metal Gear Solid 3. Boss has his own private military organization, and they take a job to investigate the rumored return of his thought-to-be-dead mentor. What follows is the usual twists and turns in true Metal Gear story fashion. The story is told through black and white comic cutscenes, which are extremely effective. The story was surprisingly good, with characters and events setting up Metal Gear Solid 5.
We'd be making an enemy of our homeland.
And there'd be no turning back.
3D PSP games had to deal with the most glaring omission in the system, the lack of a second analog stick. Portable Ops had used the D-pad to control the camera, which was not comfortable. Peace Walker used the 4 face buttons to control the camera, and changed the button layout to be more in line with a first-person shooter, with the shoot mapped to the right trigger. This probably doesn't seem like a big deal, but coming from playing Portable Ops, the difference was huge. Peace Walker felt like a more modern Metal Gear. Even Metal Gear Solid 3 on the PS2 used one of the face buttons to shoot, which playing now is really hard to get used to for me. Peace Walker felt easy to play, which helped because the game could get tough at times. On the Vita, Peace Walker plays even better, and the camera can be mapped to the second analog stick to feel even more like a modern action game. There was one problem with Peace Walker: the bosses. Metal Gear was a series known for memorable boss encounters, and Peace Walker removed that, and instead had you fighting vehicle bosses like tanks, mechs, or helicopters. It wasn't too bad, and there were different ways to take out the machines. You could go in all guns blazing, or you could try and stealthily take out the guards accompanying the vehicle, and then tranquilize the vehicle driver in order to capture it and add it to your army. The choice between stealth and full-on assault added depth and replayability to the battles. Some bosses took me ages to beat due to my goal of capturing the vehicle, but there was a great feeling of accomplishment to completing a perfect boss battle without being seen.
What is it?
You may wonder why you need to capture a vehicle. Well, Peace Walker had some excellent and immersive base and army management minigames. You could capture unconscious enemy soldiers and take them back to your base to join your army. Depending on the skill and stats, you may find new weapons that can be developed and used by boss in the battlefield. Or you can assign your soldiers to the kitchen to help keep your troops fed and happy. You could also send your troops and vehicles out to complete military contracts and earn you more money and parts. Eventually, with all the mech parts you acquire from defeating enemy mechs, and with the right research, you can build your own Metal Gear unit. I built my Metal Gear because I thought it would be cool, but it turned out it was also important for the game's story. These base sim and troop management elements were a lot of fun, and I would happily spend time after each mission figuring out which division to place any newly acquired soldiers. The graphics were phenomenal on the PSP, and while it does look less sharp on the Vita, it still holds up and looks really good. There was no proper online multiplayer. There was an option for co-op, but you had to use ad hoc on the PSP, which meant people needed to be next to you. This was the only game I used ad hoc party for on the PS3. It worked pretty well, and got some cool new equipment from working with people and taking down some of the optional tough bosses. I wish it could have used regular online though, rather than ad hoc. I would have happily played most of the campaign cooperatively, but using ad hoc party was a hassle, and there weren't many people online, so I tended to play solo. It's a shame because the game was built to play with others. It was probably easier in Japan since the PSP was so popular there, but I didn't know anyone playing PSP at that point in its life. A couple of the other nicer elements in the game. Firstly, there are some optional endgame levels to fight some of the bosses from the Monster Hunter series. These were super tough. I never managed to beat any of them alone, but managed to beat a couple of them when I played online with Ad Hoc Party. As I mentioned, you can recruit soldiers to your army by capturing them in the game, but you could also recruit them in the real world by pinging Wi-Fi signals on your PSP, and it started up a mini hand-to-hand combat battle with random soldiers. You beat them, which was never too hard, and then you can recruit them. The stats of these soldiers were randomized, but it was an extra reason to have my PSP on me at all times, and be searching around for new allies. It's a shame that the Vita never got its own Metal Gear game, unlike the PSP which got 6 Metal Gear Solid games, although one was the Metal Gear Solid graphic novel. It's also a shame the Vita didn't get an HD upgrade of the game like the PS3, but at least Peace Walker is still playable on the Vita, and the only real difference is trophies, so it's not a huge issue for me. I have a memorable moment from this game. Towards the end of the game I was fighting a tough helicopter boss, and there were respawning soldiers that accompanied it. I was fighting it to the song Heaven's Divide, which if you haven't heard is a great song. I remember I had very little ammo left. The helicopter had shot and destroyed all the walls around me. I had a small pillar left to hide behind, as the helicopter continued to shoot at me. The two enemy soldiers were running towards me, and as the song built to the peak of its crescendo, I emerged from the column, killed both soldiers with well-placed headshots, and unloaded my clip on the helicopter, and destroyed it. I felt like such a badass. I was playing on my PSP as my wife watched TV, and I took my headphones off and just said to her that this game was amazing. This was a real console quality game on a handheld, and I just had to tell someone how much I loved it. This game had everything I wanted from a great handheld game. Excellent graphics, great story, amazing gameplay, and for the most part, short missions perfect for a handheld. It came out pretty late in the PSP's life, but it showed just how capable the system really was. Even today, playing it on my Vita, the game is great. I prefer it to Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, and that's why Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker is my retro recommendation. So guys, have you played Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker? What did you think of it? Leave a comment below, and as always, thanks for watching.